if I cried out, would hear me among the angels' hierarchies. And even if one of them pressed me against his heart, I would be consumed in that overwhelming existence. For beauty is nothing but the beginning of terror. And we are so awed because it serenely disdains to annihilate us. Every angel is terrifying. In the land of eternal night, there once lived a warrior by the name of Princess Sogra. And one day, our princess is informed that a bridge of smoke had appeared in the royal gardens, leading far, far away to, well, nobody really knew where to. You see, the issue was that the most valiant knights in the land would not dare to tread its mysterious paths. But every night Sogra would hear calls beckoning her to adventure. But there's the rub, to heed or not to heed the call. So, Sogra asks a merry band to join her in this quest across the bridge of smoke and see where it leads. Those curious like her, those like you and me. So let us tread these mysterious paths, choose mystery, and embrace these angels who would excite us so terribly. If only you would follow me. You see, this bridge was no ordinary bridge. Made of smoke, covered in ashen fog, and spanning dimensions not found on a simple Cartesian map. And, well, when Sogra and her crew first arrived at this stop, they were almost ready to turn back because they felt they had arrived at the abyss. Abject emptiness. Yet, was it? Because unbeknownst to our travelers, they had in fact arrived to the first of many spots in their journey. The entrance to Thesis, the land of ensnaring magic. But you must remember, dearest companions, that this is only the beginning of our story. And finding a place for a story is very important. If not as important as finding a space within a story. And so, today, we travel. Because you see, blank pages, they can be terrifying, much like blank spaces. Because they are brimming with potential. But it is not their potential that is actually so terrifying. I mean, after all, it's just an empty space, a glowing canvas. No. It is the invitation that is terrifying. The potential latent within the artist, the painter, the writer, the dancer. Because these empty spaces, they're a mirror that reflects all that can be. And all that remains is a singular choice, one that you have made in coming here. So come, take a seat, make yourselves at home, and let me tell you one or many stories. But before we begin, I must, as is tradition, offer you some warmth. I may be a poor traveler by means, but rich in courtesy. Therefore, I have some strong chai to offer you. And we have other options as well. We have lemonade. And I know, some of you prefer your tea with milk in it, without milk in it, sorry. Choices of mine. But this thing, excluding milk from chai, I find to be a gruesome exclusion. So, those of you who would like some chai, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And how many for some lemonade? Just one. All right. No. Now I must, as is also tradition, introduce myself. I come from a land you know, but cannot really recognize. You can and do dip your hands into the currents of its time, but its true depths remain unfathomable. For nobody should really wander there alone in a feeble mortal coil. For the only boat that can cross these tricky waters is one arcane and pure. It is the vehicle of stories. Simple. I have many names. Sutradhar, the one who pulls the strings. Saki, the wine cup bearer. The bard, chronicler, timekeeper. Who was for chai again?
Thank you so much.
Yours is coming. What was the other one? Oh, another one to do with threads. They really like threads, don't they? A spinner of yarns, they call me. Oh, there's a very terrifying one. Kal. A word that means chaos, the void, death, and time somehow. I don't know. Yeah, those are tiny, I know. Who else? Okay. L. There are more. There you go. Just 2 more, right? Okay. You get the big one. And as I introduce myself, I must not answer any of your questions. For if I do that, what will you do, fellow travelers? But as we start, I must make my declarations of love, as from any lover to their beloved. And I shall read to you from my Sakinama, the book of the cupbearer. Okay. जे मैं तेनू बाहर ढूंढा ते मेरे अंदर कौन समाया जे मैं तेनू अंदर ढूंढा ते बाहर किस दी माया If I search for you outside, then who is it within me contained? And if I search for you inside, then whose are all these worldly enchantments? अंदर तू है ते बाहर तू है वेखा हर था तेरा साया Inside you reside, outside you reside. Wherever I look, I see your shadow. अंदर तू है ते बाहर तू है वेखा हर था तेरा साया मैं भी तू है ते तू भी तू है रेता फर्क नजर ना आया If I am you and you are also you, then I see no distance, no difference between us. I may be a drunkard, a little too loose as they say. My words might fly or sink or jump or wink. A dark enchanted verse is what I am, forever bearing you, in myself imbued with you. Forth to the morning of eternal virginings and blooms, oh yes, I drew you. Through this verse, oh breath, oh yes, I drew you. Through this verse and crafted you, to seas, to trees, to fire, I grafted you. But I shall make no excuses. I am the captain you're stuck with. And trust me, someone sober could never break these mortal shackles. But worry not. It is not that worldly spirit, although that too helps, but the frenzied ecstasy of my beloved's glance on the way over here. If you have to blame any, blame me. Let them be. I knew this wine would flow free in which alley, and knowing full well my duty to be a cupbearer, a tail spinner, a sailor on these high seas, how could I leave? But without offering my salams to the one with whose name all pilgrimages begin. And so, let it be that with care I shall pour this wine I procure from thee, and with love distribute it to all those who seek. The deft fingers of narrators weave this splendid tale with the golden thread of sorcery and spread it out thus before marveling eyes, that often during many a sleepless night, when Sogra would be peeking out of her storeroom's big window, all unrestricted creatures of the night would quietly revolve around her. Of this ritual, she was completely unaware, because our Sogra believed this splashed in fragments across various nights to be her only immortal home, and who in their own home could assume themselves to be undisputed royalty. But this was the very thing about this community of the night that made it unique. The choice to become part of it could only be made by one's own free will. And the normal everyday world that we're familiar with, when one searches for and doesn't find an answer in that world, only then can this talisman be chanced upon. Talisman means magic, mysticism, the only truth there might be. And Maya is illusion. And now that I have seen the night, I feel like I should familiarize you with its most popular creature. They are one who are not one but many. They are the culmination of us all, and they are Sogra's first friend. And their name is Rue. Soul.
वैसी आ जाओ सिंगार को रहने दो। जैसी हो वैसी आ जाओ सिंगार को रहने दो। बाल अगर बिखरे हैं सीधी माँ नहीं निकली। बांधे नहीं आंगिया के फीते तो भी कोई बात नहीं। जैसी हो वैसी आ जाओ सिंगार को रहने दो। किसको पता है पल को तले दिए का काजल लगा नहीं बनी है प्रांदी तो क्या गजरा नहीं बंधा तो छोड़ो। जैसी हो वैसी आ जाओ सिंगार को रहने दो। सिंगार को रहने दो। I have these recurring dreams sometimes. I don't understand them, but I do know they're important somehow. She is important. You see, the dreams, they're about a woman. I don't recognize her, but she is me. I mean to say, I know her. Just like how one knows own self. And I've seen her since the first time I fell in love and got my heart broken. All new worlds opened up then. So much was revealed. And in the dreams, she's so close to my face. I feel like I'm standing really close to a mirror. Even though she has my face, I don't know why or how, but she does. All I can think is, I don't recognize myself. And she always has this constant smile on her face, as if she knows things I could never even begin to imagine. And something in me is too scared to ask her about all she knows. Because her expression, it's almost a smirk. Like she's waiting for me. I think she's waiting for me.
Hi, Lakdiyo.
Hi, Ram.
You know.
Again, yes.
Yes.
Why set.
Okay.
Oh, इरम तो वहाँ पे हिमानी भी है.
Yes.
Why everyone looks so beautiful.
का सेप्टम कहाँ है? ये मुझे लगा
नहीं मैंने पहना हुआ था एक्चुअली. ऐसे सुंदर लड़कियां दिख रही है मुझे एकदम से.
यार
There is a special kind of entrapment humans can make for themselves. It can be gilded, so bright and glittering that they are blinded to the truth of it. Or one so old and rusty that they forget a world outside of it exists. One they have been in so long, they do not know of anything beyond. But through the oldest stone walls, flowers break through. Life wins. And dawn breaks through every night. Remember when I said that it is very important to find a place for a story, if not more important than finding a place within a story? How do you find your space within your story? What adornments must happen, not for the world, no, but for yourself? A little bit of kajal under the eyes to see true and seem true. A little metal armor to celebrate the instrument of your voice. Maybe some adornment for the wrists if you're feeling really fancy. Nobody noticed that? And some eternal music for the ears. Right here. And here. And never, ever forget the most important thing. Your third eye. All perceiving, all seeing. And before I forget, memory in a bottle. The memory of late night summer walks. Right after the day's heat has sucked out all the fragrance from the jasmine trees and shrouded the night's streets with them. I must share this with you too. So if you would like some perfume, please hold out your wrist like this. And just rub it together. Thank you. There you go. All right. So you see this world that we have now entered, and where Sogra returns time and time again. It is the world of beggars and fools, which starts to reveal itself to us from about 10:30 p.m. at night. But often we are too exhausted by the monotony of every day, and the weight of it all shuts our eyes before we may attend to it, really attend to it. And if you're still not convinced of its existence, one meeting with its natives can confirm its reality for you. So the next time when you meet any lover or any artist, grab a hold of them and make them answer this one question. When surrounded by your own solitude, what land is it that you travel to? And then whatever thesis about their solitude they give you, you won't find loneliness anywhere in it. Only solitude, which is a special kind of loneliness, one which is cherished and celebrated. Which is why, when Sogra first heard the call, she dared to venture in all alone. But there are no rules about stumbling onto a few others on the way. She was about to meet her first companion in the forest, but she didn't know that yet. You see, Viru was a shapeshifter, but her favorite shape was that of a butterfly woman. Majestic, tornado-inducing wings colored like lime, shades ripe and unripe, yellow and green. Her tresses wildly framing her face, unkempt. The other favorite shape was sometimes that of a squirrel too. But mostly, Viru was a walking, talking, flying, climbing, noisy little troublemaker. Viru was kind. She was smart. And most importantly, Sogra felt Viru kept her good and true. Traversing through the dark forest, Sogra stumbled in the deep. As she looked back upon the tripping hazard, something in all that inky darkness glimmered. Sogra dug, and lo and behold, a crystal as clear as running water, the size of a palm. The mysterious object had to be studied, but suddenly a heavy drowsiness crept upon her as she realized that it had been many hours since her last rest. So as Sogra lay down in her makeshift hut, she moved the crystal around in her hand. As the full moon above peered in through the gaps of the thatched roof, colors seemed to appear in the crystal. And shapes? Sogra rubbed her eyes. The exhaustion, she decided, was playing tricks on her mind. Yet that night, as Sogra slept, the crystal transformed into a tiny emerald green nightjar and sang her a lullaby. Now, in the lullaby, a petite little girl was getting ready to go to school. At school, this girl was one of the top students, acing maths, science, Hindi, English, social studies, and sports as well. She performed in all the school functions and consistently made her mother and father extremely proud. She had a best friend she never fought with, crushes she stayed away from, and everything should have been good. Sogra heard the girl's mother constantly chant, "Never bring us shame, Viru. Be a good little girl." And Viru was. She was such a little good girl. Sogra watched Viru grow up, fight her best friend for the first time ever when she moved to another city, and Viru stayed where she had always been. All was not well, and Viru couldn't put her finger on why. One day in college, things started to take a different turn. She'd made up with her best friend and she was walking on air with happiness. But Sogra heard a new addition to Viru's mother's usual chant. Get your degree, get married, and be good. So Viru knew she had to run. Viru had to dream. She didn't know what she wanted, but she knew damn well what she did not want. And that meant starting a whole new life in the big city. Because as much as she loved her parents, she had only just begun to understand her questions to life, much less the answers. So she ran to a new city where she could be one of almost too many. Before Sogra could watch any further, her eyes fluttered open and she sat right up. The nightjar, terrified, attempted to flap straight out, but Sogra was quick to notice her crystal was gone, and a random bird was now rustling around in her little hut. So she bolted to block the exit. The bird screeched, and Sogra roared, "Where is my crystal, you thief? What did you do with it?" "Oh no, did you swallow it?" The bird stops flapping and lands on the floor. "I'm sorry, what?" "Ya Khuda, a talking bird. This is truly a magical land." "I am not a talking bird and I did not swallow myself. What are you, stupid?" "I will have you know, I am not stupid. It is reasonable to assume that a dumb animal breaking into my home would swallow a precious little thing like the crystal. Oh well, precious. Thank you very much." What is going on? All right, this might help. And before Sogra's very eyes, the nightjar transformed into the girl from her dream. "The girl from my dream swallowed my crystal? What? No! How do you still not get it? I'm a shapeshifter. I was the crystal that tripped you over last night. By the way, sorry about that." And that was how Viru and Sogra became inseparable friends. So now on their way out of the forest, they found a river blocked their way across. With no bridge to cross it and raging currents making it impossible to swim across, the two travelers began planning the best course of action to take. Viru presented the idea that the powers of a crystal form be used to divine a way across by appeasing the spirit of the river, so that they may be allowed to pass. Thus Sogra sat down on the river bank, and Viru turned into her crystal self. And Sogra picked up the clear, familiar stone and began her prayers to the river's spirit. The water in the river started to churn. She kept on chanting, determined not to break her focus, no matter what. She closed her eyes in order to concentrate, and it seemed like ages passed before she heard a melodious voice that felt like a cool shower on a hot summer day. Even in its softness, it felt demanding. Sogra opened her eyes slowly, and before her stood a woman with straight, long hair, dark, tired eyes, and a face that seemed to hide 1,000 stories. "I am Kanu, the spirit of this here river. Why have you called upon me, traveler?" she asked. My friend and I, we would like to cross your river, great spirit," answered Sogra. "Then swim across, why trouble me?" Sogra felt a strange emotion rise within her. She did not really understand where she stood with this river spirit. She had met many during her journey from the smoke bridge, but something about her seemed to not quite fit right here. And it was unsettling. So Sogra did not wish to cross the spirit in order to cross the river. Well, you see, the currents, what about them? Well, they're far too strong for a human and a shapeshifter to swim in, and the river itself too wide to even risk it. Kanu replied with a question. What kind of travelers fear taking risks? You're quite right, of course. I only meant to say it isn't a very smart risk upon calculation. Not when we might be better off with offering you our services in exchange for safe passage. And what do you suppose you can offer me? I believe you can tell us that better than we can assume. Kanu seemed to soften at this remark and contemplated for a bit as Viru transformed back into her butterfly woman self. Well, we are not supposed to interfere with the affairs of land creatures. So if you really want my help, I must test your characters in a way I deem best. I want you both to come spend a night with me in my home under the water. Your breathing will be guaranteed and your test will happen in that duration. Those are my terms, if you wish for a chance to cross my river at all. Viru and Sogra looked at each other, realizing this was their best shot, and agreed. Kanu fashioned steps out of the water to lead them down into her home, and to their surprise, a bubble of air formed around their heads as the water closed above them, turning everything inky blue. Their eyes adjusted to their surroundings as they followed Kanu to a carved cave-like structure on the floor of the river. She offered them food and drinks, a special wine made only underwater. At first, the two women were slightly wary of the offerings, but ultimately gave in. That night, Kanu sang for them the saddest song they had ever heard. A song about how the river's only wish was to meet its long-separated lover, the ocean. But it couldn't because it was stuck within itself. Then, at night, in delirium of strong wine and full stomachs, they'd nearly forgotten about Kanu's tests. But Kanu had not. As they fell asleep and drifted off to dreaming, they each saw their homes. The homes they had long ago left behind, to look for newer questions and perhaps old answers. Sogra found herself laying on her old mattress in her old room, and to her surprise, Viru was also there. "We're in my room," she said. Sogra guffawed. "Your room? No, that can't be right. This is my room. Look at the red walls, the flickering tube light, and that mirror in the corner behind the drape is... Wait. This isn't my mirror." "It's because it is mine," Viru said blankly. Her face bore an expression of confusion and reflected Sogra's thoughts. They looked around the room for a while, and then Sogra opened the door that was supposed to lead into the rest of her house, and it seemed to be something of it, yet not entirely. Viru joined her and pointed out more elements that seemed hers as Sogra pointed out her own. There were newer rooms in their homes, rooms that had never been there, rooms from school and college and favorite cafes, nooks in the city park they claimed as their own, the one tree under which Sogra had built the hut where she met Viru. It was never ending, and if you asked them, they would never be able to tell you how long they spent wandering this castle of dreams, which had revealed itself to be a hybrid of their old haunts. Then they found an elevator also in the backyard. There were buttons for only 2 levels, ground and top. This struck them as too odd to leave alone. And so our 2 heroines stepped in, pressed the top button and waited as the elevator closed and moved up. They decided it was taking awfully long for the only other level to be reached. So Sogra finally asked, "Where do you think we are?" And Viru replied in a strange fashion, "Home, obviously." "No, I mean, the last thing I remember is going to sleep. And do you think there was something in the wine? Are we dreaming?" Viru looked at her. "Sogra, how are we both here if this is a dream? I feel very real, and you are actually here, aren't you?" And then she pinched Sogra. "Out! Yes, I'm real. I'm not sure about you though." And Sogra pinched her back. Viru let out a squirrely squeal. Sogra nodded. "Yes, real." So what is this? I don't know, and I think this lift is broken. Just as Veeru was about to kick the elevator doors, they opened. They saw a long dark hallway of glass, and reflections of light seemed to pass overhead. Well, said Veeru. After walking through the length of the hallways, they came upon a huge door. As they pushed it open, a dimly lit grand ballroom revealed itself. There was strange music playing in the empty, dark blue space. It sounded almost familiar. It's Kanu's song, Sogra realized. It's beautiful, Veeru answered. Then she looked at Sogra with a glimmer in her eye. Sogra sighed. What? Think about it. When are we ever going to get the chance to dance in a sunken ballroom with music? Dance with me. It is pertinent that you dance with me right now. Sogra knew better than to argue with Veeru about dancing. And so, to slow, beautiful music, the two women spun around in the sunken ballroom. There was no time, no tests, no questions, nothing. Only two girls laughing in a big empty structure, dancing to sad music. When they finally took a break, they fell down to the floor heaving. They looked at each other and laughed again. Suddenly, Veeru's eyes fell upon the drawn curtains on the wall behind her. Light seemed to be pouring out from the edges of them. Bright blue light. She got up and pulled Sogra along. When they drew back the curtains, a huge window the length of the wall revealed itself. As the music picked up around them, the curtains fell on all sides, revealing clear glass windows. The water outside seemed to be getting brighter and brighter, and the window was wider, tearing through the room. The girls watched in terror as the entire hall, which had been so dark only moments ago, filled with immense light. They hugged, trying to protect each other, eyes shut tight against the searing light. And right before Sogra shut her eyes, she could have sworn she saw a dark figure against all that light. A vast, towering figure coming towards them with speed. The figure of a... No, it wasn't possible, not in a river, if that was indeed where they were. The glass must have shattered as they were suddenly thrown around, and there was no noise to go along with it. The only sound was of the music getting faster and louder and faster and louder and faster until they were swallowed up by an immense mouth. They realized they were still clutching each other and fell to the ground in shock and relief. They looked at each other completely aghast when they realized that the ground was not ground at all. It was soft and pink, like flesh.
मुझे समझ नहीं आया क्योंकि कल मैं थोड़ी जो है ना मैं थोड़ी ग्रूम सी हुई मैंने देखा आईब्रोज ठीक करवाए और दैट तो मुझे थोड़ा सा कॉन्फिडेंस का फील हुआ था तो यू नो मे बी
बचपन में I used to dream that I'm on Shatabdi going to Aligarh. Shows you how things can be, but it's not reality. So it's like a tease. It hurts you.
मतलब बेसिकली दीवारें जो हैं वो पूरी की पूरी दे आर गेटिंग कन्वर्टेड इनटू विंडोज, ठीक है?
Okay.
और बहुत तेज तो धीरे धीरे पहले तो रोशनी आ रही है, रोशनी आ रही है, रोशनी आ रही है, और ये ज्यादातर मेरे दिन वाले स्ट्रीट में होता जब मैं दिन में सोती थी. तो आई एम समवन हु गेट्स रियली फ्रस्ट्रेटेड. अगर दिन में कोई उसको बीच में से उठाता है ना तो मैं ऐसी हो जाती हूँ कि आई स्टार्ट क्राइंग.
I didn't really dream much, but when I do dream and when I do end up remembering, even if when I don't remember a dream, there is this sort of, what do you say, residue, dream residue. It's not images, it's a feeling that you're left with.
Exactly. It's very interesting because you can't keep it. You can't like I'm gonna remember how I felt, but I'm not gonna remember what happened.
It's the thing, like sometimes I don't remember, I remember the feeling and then I have the feeling, which is a problem. It is an issue. Because if you dream something like your friend does something shitty, you then hold a grudge, but they did nothing wrong. And And lately, I've been very connected to the Books Grill. And I get that quite a lot. I always have this mixed reality.
Yeah.
I don't remember the dream, but I have this feeling from the dream.
That is mostly anxiety for me. Anxiety or just being restless when I wake up.
So I can't dance around anywhere. I can't sit like I want to everywhere. I can't just lie down like I want to everywhere. I have to like keep. I feel like I have an audience because anybody can walk in at any time. You know. But in winters, I'm here and I'm enclosed in four walls. It's just this really safe and comfy space. And that's when I get back in touch with myself.
I don't think I see the space as a very. It's just the current place, It's not like it's home, but it's not. So I would dream more of my home in Bulgaria.
After I was 18, I started realizing the importance of having my space regardless of circumstances. So it started with having your own desk, having your own cupboard, like little things like that. So I'm never able to wrap my head around the geographical aspect of dreams, like the way we just merge spaces.
In those dreams, I might be returning to that home, but what is really interesting is often in the home, I discover new rooms and new places to be that I didn't know existed at that time.
At this point, they had completely lost any measure of time. But it seemed to them that after many hours of wondering and fearing for their fate, the great whale finally opened its colossal maw and they walked onto land. Quiet, bird song, the sound of water streaming. They were not only across the river, they were in a different continent possibly. This was the ocean before them. You passed. The voice came from behind them and they whipped around. Kanu was standing there, one hand over the other, and on her face a very, very faint smile, perhaps. Wait, but what was the test? Sogra asked. You did not abandon each other, even as you faced certain death, Kanu answered. And before that, you even found joy in all the confusion meant to discourage you and haunt you, perhaps only because of each other's company. It is a rare thing to find companions that keep us sane in this insanity. And your quest is not an easy one. I and many others wish for what you have, but for now, I wish you all the best on your journey. I have been away from my river too long. I must get back to my duties. And Viru jumped in front of Kanu. No, wait. Kanu looked at her with surprise. Sogra hissed at Viru. What are you doing? Viru gulped and looked at Kanu. The place you sent us to? The haunt, I mean. It was parts of us, but also a part of you. Kanu stepped back. Sogra asked Viru what she meant, and Viru presented her theory then. The ballroom. It's yours. Neither of us have ever been in a place like that, trust me. We would have remembered. It's yours. Sogra now joined in. And since we're here, why don't you, go meet the ocean? Kanu looked at them for so long that they were reminded of how difficult they first found her to read. Then she heaved a deep sigh and suddenly seemed so tired. I cannot. But why? Because it cannot be that way. My duty means that I must stay away from the rest of the world. Interact with none, meddle in no affairs, meet no one. It is what I was created for. To yearn forever. A silence fell over the group. And, except for the ocean waves hitting the shore, nothing made a sound. And it was finally Sogra who mustered all her courage and said, no, That is bullshit. You are what you love. You love the ocean, you are free. You cannot be ashamed of your desires anymore. You're miserable, and that should be sign enough that this is not your purpose. You're coming with us, or you're going wherever you want, but not back there. Not right now, no way. Viru nodded. We cannot leave you behind. We do not abandon. Kanu frowned. Where are you going? Sogra and Viru laughed. Darned if we know the answer to that, but anywhere except back. And for the first time since they had met, Kanu laughed and said, I like that. ਵੇ ਮਾਈਆ ਤੇਰੇ ਵੇਖਣ ਲਈ ਚੁੱਕ ਚਰਖਾ ਗਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਾਵਾ ਵੇ ਮਾਈਆ ਤੇਰੇ ਵੇਖਣ ਲਈ ਚੁੱਕ ਚਰਖਾ ਗਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਾਵਾ ਵੇ ਲੋਕਾ ਬਾਣੇ ਮੈਂ ਕੱਟਦੀ ਤੰਦ ਤੇਰੀਆਂ ਯਾਦਾਂ ਨੇ ਮਾਰਾ Oh beloved, to catch a glimpse of thee, I have established myself and my spinning wheel in your alley. People think that I spin cotton, but truly, I spin the yarn of your memories. ਵੇ ਮਾਇਆ ਮੇਰਾ ਜੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਘਰ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਮਲੰਗ ਹੋ ਜਾਵਾ Oh beloved, my only desire anymore is that I abandon home and become one of those bohemian beggars.
Because I've been saying I want to leave for a very long time, maybe 5 years now. I've been saying that it's time to go because I need to see the world, so I need to experience the world. But I haven't been allowed to by God. So I feel like this is, and when I was a child, I wanted to live in the big city. I was in New York, right? Because you think big city, the most opportunity.
I'm from Brooklyn, which is in New York City, and 3 words to describe it: it's dirty, it's also luxurious at the same time, and fast.
I'm from Dalian. It's North City in China. I think the 3 keywords is relax, see, and always accept me. Yeah.
The one reason why I really wouldn't go back to live in New York is because of how dirty it is. It's like there's too many rats, too many roaches. The prices of the apartments doesn't match the maintenance of the actual city. So that is my problem. But at the same time, New York is also very luxurious. Like if you go to certain parts, like the Upper West Side or Lower East Side, it's just rich. Like you want to live there. You want to live in that part of New York. And even Brooklyn is up and coming. You're gentrifying it, so the buildings are nice, it's getting nicer. But at the same time, it's really dirty. It's not safe. What else did I call it again? Fast, because everybody from New York moves with urgency.
I'm from Harlow. Yeah. But then I grew up in Prague. I don't remember living in Harlow. So I suppose more the Czech side. But yeah, now I'm here and I apparently look more of a like English girl than a Czech girl. But then when I'm it's, wherever you go, they have a different opinion on that. Every moves so fast in the city of like buildings are constantly being changed. There's always new artwork going on with them.
But Delhi का metro is something जो कि ना आपको दिल्ली का shape दिखाता है. People with literally entirely different backgrounds, socio-economic, and people coming from मतलब जिनकी मतलब you just don't know what is happening around उनके जिंदगी में क्या हो रहा है, but they are all in this one single space.
I had to, a while of years ago, I could say, had to have a conversation with myself and I was talking about how, see, this is what happens when you're like really in the business world. It's like you're expected to act and be a certain way. And I promised myself a long time ago that any room I show up in, I'm gonna be myself because I hate that switch code stuff that you gotta do. Like, okay, when I'm in this environment, I gotta act like this and talk like this, but that's not me.
So when the first time I moved in London, I feel freedom, and also suddenly feel, oh, I'm only me. I was really alone.
Realize that.
Yeah, but I'm really satisfied with my life now.
Hope is the number one. And it's going to be really sad and depressing for you to listen to. I know where this is going. You know exactly where I'm going.
Even before coming here, I was going through grief of a loss of friendships because I'm real sensitive. I take everything in my heart, and I always felt like the issue or the reason why a lot of my other friendships didn't work is because I never felt seen. I was always the friend everybody would call to vent to, but nobody was doing that for me. And I could always tell when something was off with my friends, but the fact that they couldn't tell when I was off bothered me. And I'm not used to speaking up or I don't really know how to communicate like, hey, I'm kind of going through it without feeling like I'm being dramatic, like I was telling you earlier. So coming here, and I know you and Missy, I may have not said it, but it really did mean a lot when you guys mentioned that you go to your mother because I felt like God was blessing me in a way. So that goes into the point you just brought up where you're saying, for 10 shitty people you might experience, the one good person will make up for it. It's like meeting you or getting to know you and Missy off that one little 5-minute experience meant a lot to me because I felt like, okay, God really do be looking out. Because I needed to hear that because I get so caught up in thinking I'm the only one going through it and it's me, and I'm the only one suffering right now. But meeting you two, even if we didn't end up cool, it was just like just knowing that there's two other individuals who are my peers in my current space that also are walking through the similar walks of life as me, down to not having parents. It meant a lot because it was like you are literally not alone. I needed that to understand it because I was told that I wasn't alone, but I don't think I grasped it until I met you two. I was like, yeah.